And then, right, he did the most unimaginable thing, the thing that you could, I mean, even having defended the Constitution, even having, won a unanimous election within a legitimate system, and having at his disposal basically lifelong presidency. I mean, there were no term limits at the time. And indeed, Washington is effectively inventing term limits in this moment by stepping down, right? This is the thing. After having won 2 unanimous elections, he chooses to give up the presidency and to go home. And this is an amazing feat. Again, even perhaps in some ways more amazing than the Newburgh moment, because now he actually has a nation, right, that is, lives by a certain constitution, lives by the rule of law, and still he won't take total control of it. And so I wanted to read to you now from his farewell address a little bit. When he stepped down, he wrote this speech, which was given to Congress, never delivered in vocally, but it's preserved as a written document. And it begins by he's explaining why he would step down, because again, right, like Washington invented term limits, and it wasn't until much later, after FDR, that they were actually made legal, right? That the term limits were a matter of law. But nobody ever again would hold more than 2 terms in office until FDR, because of this incredible act that he did. But at the time, it was assumed, of course, that if you could have this kind of power, why wouldn't you, right? So here's what he says to explain himself. He says, "Friends and fellow citizens, the period for a new election of a citizen to administer the executive government of the United States being not far distant, and the time actually arrived when your thoughts must be employed in designating the person who is to be clothed with that important trust, it appears to me proper, especially as it may conduce to a more distinct expression of the public voice, that I should now apprise you of the resolution I have formed to decline being considered among the number of those out of whom a choice is to be made. I beg you at the same time to do me the justice to be assured that this resolution has not been taken without a strict regard to all the considerations appertaining to the relation which binds a dutiful citizen to his country, and that, in withdrawing the tender of service, which silence in my situation might imply, I am influenced by no diminution of zeal for your future interest, no deficiency of grateful respect for your past kindness, but am supported by a full conviction that the step is compatible with both the acceptance of and continuance hitherto in the office to which your suffrages have twice called me have been a uniform sacrifice of inclination to the opinion of duty and to a deference for what appeared to be your desire. I constantly hoped that it would have been much earlier in my power, consistently with motives which I was not at liberty to disregard, to return to that retirement from which I had been reluctantly drawn. The strength of my inclination to do this, previous to the last election, had even led to the preparation of an address to declare it to you. But mature reflection on the then perplexed and critical posture of our affairs with foreign nations and the unanimous advice of persons entitled to my confidence impelled me to abandon the idea. I rejoice that the state of your concerns, external as well as internal, no longer renders the pursuit of inclination incompatible with the sentiment of duty or propriety, and am persuaded, whatever partiality may be retained for my services, that in the present circumstances of our country, you will not disapprove my determination to retire." What an amazing document. Again, easy to overlook because we take it for granted. But what he is saying is that what determines my assumption of power is not whether I can get it. It's not whether you will give it to me, but whether you have need of my exercise of it. That's the principle, the actual good of the actual people being ruled. Like, imagine that should be what guides a man in taking up and putting down power. He's saying, I wanted to put it down earlier, but I think you needed me. And now you no longer need me. And so I'm stepping down.